Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Katrina and this is Katrina Reads. So this is a recent read video. I have had a really bad reading time for like April, May. So I have a few books for to cover the month and a half. I'm currently reading like 10 other books, but these are the completed books that I've read since probably April 1st. I am currently doing a buddy read, and that's been fun. And then I am, listening to a bunch of other books as my mood permits. So the first book that kind of snapped me out of the worst of the slump is called Neighborly, and it's this really steamy romantic novella about this consensual open relationship that happens. This one couple wants to rent the other side of a duplex, and the couple that lives in the other side that owns the duplex show them around, and the two women are attracted to each other and consensually with their partners knowing about it, so it's not cheating or anything like that. Like, they get together and it's super hot, it's super cool. It was really cool to see like a healthy expression of eroticism in this. I gave this 4 stars. It was a great book. It was a great little shock to the system to get me out of my slump. So then I continued on in the smutty romance vein. It's Baby Makes 4, an MMF bisexual menage secret baby romance. It's 2 guys who are best friends, and then one of the guys is good friends with the girl, and they all get together eventually, or actually one girl and one guy gets together. She gets pregnant, but then because all of them love each other, they decide to stay together. It's smutty and sweet, which is weird, but it works. And again, that's by Roxanne Riley, and I gave that 4 stars. So my next mood moved on to cozy mysteries. The first one was Murder with Fried Chicken and Waffles by A.L. Herbert. This is a Mahalia Watkins soul food mystery number 1, and I gave that 4 stars. Mahalia had a restaurant. Well, they call her Halia in the book, but her restaurant is called Mahalia's Sweet Tea, the finest soul food restaurant in Prince George's County, Maryland. And obviously someone dies in the restaurant, but she's trying to solve the mystery before her restaurant's name gets caught up into it and she gets bad press. She has, I think her little cousin? Yeah, it's her young cousin, Wavon, has a really smart mouth, and she was really funny. I liked her. And it's just the normal cozy mystery vibes, except with soul food and lots of recipes in this one again. And, just recognizable tropes for a Black person and a person who loves cozy mysteries. So I really love that, and I gave it 4 stars. So the next recent read was another cozy mystery. This one is Death by Dumplings, a noodle shop mystery, number 1 by Vivian Chen. This one is about a young lady who goes through a breakup. She walks out on her job, and then she has to move back to Cleveland, move back in with her parents, wait tables at their noodle shop called Holy Noodle House. And the noodle shop is in like a Chinatown area, and so it has that trope that I like, where all the family members are close, town members are close, but it's not a town, it's Chinatown, and it's a whole shopping center that has a whole bunch of different, like a Chinese restaurant, Chinese tea shop, it's just a shop run by a whole bunch of Chinese immigrants and Chinese American people. And when someone dies, they all come together to try to figure out who did it. And obviously the reason why our main character Lana gets involved is because she's the last person to see him. She delivers him the food that actually kills him, but she didn't do it, obviously. But she has to work to find who did it to clear her name, as well as deal with her mother, who's trying to figure out why she's not married, and all of those other kind of tropey things when it comes to immigrant parents and the like. The next book I completed is another like contemporary romance, Actor Age Eve Brown. It's the Brown Sisters #3 book, and it's by Talia Hibbert. I gave this 5 stars. It was absolutely wonderful. The whole series has been wonderful. And if you're on, I think everybody on BookTube, for the first time, I heard someone say, when I was watching like a romance live show, I heard someone say that they didn't like it. And I was shocked because I have heard only good things from other people about it. And I've only enjoyed these books. So, Eve Brown is a certified hot mess. No matter how hard she strives to do right, her life always goes horribly wrong. So she's given up trying. And then Jacob Wayne is in control always. The bed and breakfast owner is on a mission to dominate the hospitality industry, and he expects nothing less than perfection. So when a purple-haired tornado of a woman turns up out of the blue to interview for his open chef position, he tells her the brutal truth, not a chance in hell. Then she hits him with her car, supposedly by accident. So she has to work. She has to take care of him. She feels bad. She ends up working there. They fall in love. Talia is really good with mixing like real hot sex with sweet cinnamon roll men characters. Lots of really good representation, not just when it comes to Black people, but people with disabilities, people, fat women. All the Brown sisters have been fat, dark skin. I believe that it's not explicit that Eve thinks it's hinted at that Eve is autistic, but it's for sure that Jacob is. And she has this big, clash with her mother and father because they're super successful, and she's been, jumping around trying to find her thing, whereas everybody else in her family has their thing. This book, it's just great. It's humorous, it's sweet, it's sexy, you can see yourself in these characters. Nobody's left out. They're great. 5 stars. Then I wanted to try some fantasy romance because I realized that I don't necessarily like fantasy for fantasy's sake. I like the romances in fantasy. And so it never occurred to me that there would be fantastical romance. And I was watching, some romance channels live show, or maybe even just a regular channel. And they talked about Grace Draven. And so I looked up Grace Draven, and I don't know why I picked Radiance. I believe that was the book that was first suggested. In Radiance, there's 2 spares in these kingdoms. So Brishan is the Prince of Kai, but he's like the 3rd brother, so he doesn't have any importance. And then Ildiko is the niece of a king. She's human. He's Kai. And Kai are like these gray people. They're nocturnal. They have like yellow eyes and claws. And they both humans and Kai think each other are grotesque. But because they're spares, they've been married off to strengthen the ties amongst these kingdoms. And over a long course of time, it's a slow burn, through friendship and some things that, some adventures and stuff, they learn to love each other, and then they start to see each other as beautiful. Even though it's interesting because even in the second book, I read the second book in the series, which is, I'll say what the name of that one, it's Eidolon. That one is more fantasy than romance. It's still about the same two characters, but it's more fantasy. It's not as much about the individual's relationship, but even in the second book, when they're well into their relationship, the Brishan is still like disturbed by human eyes, because we have the whites in our eyes and they don't. They have just all black pupil or all yellow pupils, and so it just freaks them out sometimes, and it freaks out other people. Like the other people in court, can't stand looking at her. So it's a really interesting dynamic. So Radiance, I gave 4 stars, and I also gave Eidolon 4 stars. Eidolon is Brishan's mother is evil, and she does this like forbidden magic that tears a hole in like reality, and it lets in these vicious demon-like things that completely, just tear up the kingdom, and it's moving toward, and it's just eating everything in sight. And the only way that this force can be stopped is if these, like, I think it's 4 or 5 kings die and they become wraiths, and then they go and they have to fight and close that rift up. And so Brishan is one of the wraith kings, and he goes and does that. And so, like I said, more of this story, more of Ildiko and Brishan's story in this one is how they deal with being separated from each other, how Ildiko has to deal with the power dynamics in a Kai kingdom when she's a human. It's just a big, like I said, it's just, this one's more adventure than just the romance. But because we got that basis of romance and building up their relationship in the first book in Radiance, I was down for the adventure. There's I don't know if I think I left it in my currently reading. There is in a story, it's a bunch of short stories by Grace Draven called Lover of Thorns and Holy Gods. There is a short about Ildiko and Brishan in there, and I read that short about them, and it's just it's just a sex scene, and then so I left it in my currently reading because I do plan on reading more Grace Draven, and then hopefully there's other stories that connect and I can read them in here in that short story collection. And then I finished Needful Things, which is a classic Stephen King book about the town of Castle Rock, and this mysterious guy, Leland Gaunt, comes in and he opens a store called Needful Things, and all kinds of chaos ensues. And that's all I'm gonna say about that, because either you've read it and but this is it's a classic Stephen King book where you get to know the whole town, just like in Salem's Lot. With Salem Lot, you think there's a main character, that you're following, but it's on purpose that the story is called Salem's Lot, because it's about the town, really. This is the same thing. It's really about the town and how these people act, and how they are persuaded. And so that's all I want to say about it. But it was a good story, and I gave it 4 stars, just because Stephen King can be, like I said, he can go on too long in some areas, just for absolutely no reason. The N-word shows up, and there are no black people in the story. So it's just like, why did you need to add that? You are completely in control of that. We can show this guy as a bad guy in another way. But again, like I said, I'm not gonna ever cancel Stephen King for that, but it does knock off a star for that. But I don't know how to explain the feeling I get from Stephen King books. Like I've been reading it for a long time because it's kind of like a comfort thing, and you would think it's a scary book or it's gross or whatever, but I don't know. There's something about Stephen King books that are comfort books. So even when I was going through the worst of my block, my reading slump, I still would, put it on at night, half an hour, and listen to that before going to bed. Or if I was just gonna sit and do something on my phone or whatever, I'd have that playing, and it's a comfort. I don't know why. Maybe because Stephen King has been around so long, maybe because his stories are so lived in, because it's middle of America, the people are quirky. I don't know, maybe that's why it reminds me of cozy mysteries, which give me that feeling. But as strange as Stephen King's books are and as weird, they're comforting. And I don't know, if you know what I mean, put down in the comments what that is. Like, is it because he's been around so long? Because we've just had so much Stephen King, he's written so much, we've seen so many bad movies that, like, even the bad movies are kind of comforting. Like, what is it that makes him comforting? So the last book that I read completed is Visions of Heat, The Side Changelings #2 by Nalini Singh. I gave it 2 stars. I'm gonna read the third book, and if I don't like the third book, I'll be done with the series, because most of the people who recommend this say that the series really gets good at book 3. Now the people who love the series love book 1 and 2, but they still at the same time, so they're like self-aware, and they tell people, yeah, the third book is the one. So I'm gonna listen to them, and I'm gonna give it to the third book. But if it's still boring to me, then I'll give it up at that point. I don't know really how to explain why I'm not enjoying it. It has all of the building blocks for something I would like. There's romance, and there's a plot. Like, it's not just sex, right? There's a plot, there's political intrigue, there is, like a fully well-rounded world that we're inhabiting here, history. We're getting and it's building on itself. Like, we find out some things about why things are set up the way they are in book 1, and that's built on in book 2. Like I said, I don't know what's missing. She writes a good sex scene, but they just weren't my kind of sex scene. It was repetitive. Now, that's one thing there was a lot of repetition. I was bored by this couple. There was just a lot of, you're my mate, and the tiger, was he a werepanther? And he kept calling himself, the cat is is rearing its head or something. And it just kept repeating. And I was like, that's not a personality trait. Like, what else? And he really, all it was him wanting the girl. And she was just like, okay, like, it was, so they were boring. Oh, also, the person who is reading these, because my preference in reading is audio, and so the person who's reading these is really robotic, and that's interesting because normally that doesn't always take away, because Alexa, if you use the Alexa app, it can read a lot of the Kindle books for you, and so obviously Alexa is a robot, but Alexa has better inflections and stuff in her voice than this reader. I'm really hopeful that the third book, I enjoyed the third book. So that's my pretty short amount of books that I've read in this last month and a half, this slump the slump is pretty much over. So let me know what you've been reading. What do you do to get out of a reading slump? Leave me a dumpling or noodles at the end for the Death by Dumplings book that I read. And be easy on yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.